Hello, my name is Martin and welcome back to my channel. Disney's Raya and the Last Dragon is just around the corner. In fact, it comes out this Friday and I am so excited. As you may know, I've been talking about this movie for a long time and I've actually already made 2 videos about it, which you should definitely go watch after you've watched this one, of course. Last time I presented my theory on how I think the movie is going to end and who I think the movie's villain is going to be. This time, however, I wanted to dive a bit deeper into the world in which this movie takes place. So come with me on a journey to the magical world of Kumandra. First off, the basics. The magical world of Kumandra is split into 5 different lands, each being named after a part of a dragon. These are Fang, Heart, Spine, Talon and Tail. And all of these lands are located along a long lake or river system shaped like a dragon. So with this you might say that the entire world of Kumandra is actually centered around a water dragon. This lake or river system is literally a dragon made out of water. And this might be one of the reasons why the dragons are so important to the people of Kumandra. But we'll get back to that in a sec. Kumandra is of course inspired by Southeast Asia, and we see the inspiration everywhere. From the clothing and art to the riverside markets and even some of the story elements. In fact, Southeast Asian lore actually has a lot of stories about great female heroines, which are obviously echoed in the main character, Raya. And of course, Kumandra is filled with beautiful and diverse landscapes, from luscious rice fields to the harsh deserts and the cold and snowy bamboo forests. And I am sure we'll have more than plenty of beautiful visuals to look at throughout the film. Alright, like I said, Kumandra is a magical world. And along with the humans that live there, it used to be the home of a race of good-natured dragons that lived in harmony with the humans. But these dragons are not like the dragons that we know from, for instance, Game of Thrones or The Hobbit, where we see them with massive wings and breathing fire. No, instead they're inspired by the mythical Naga, which is a very common creature in many Southeast Asian cultures. The Naga is a divine creature that most often resembles a snake. Any Harry Potter fans might recognize the term for a female Naga, a Nagini, as the name of Voldemort's pet snake. And the name is actually not the only thing about the snake in Harry Potter that is a reference to the Naga. In the most recent Fantastic Beasts movie, The Crimes of Grindelwald, we found out that Nagini actually used to be a woman who could turn herself into a snake. And presumably at some point between the current Fantastic Beasts films and the Harry Potter series, she gets stuck in her snake form. I don't know. Well, the Naga is also described as being half snake, half human. And in many stories, it is capable of changing from its snake form into a human form. And of course, in some of the latest trailers for Raya, we got to see that this very much is a trait that Sisu, the last dragon, also has.
I just shape changed.
Dragons can do that?
Look how close my butt is to my head.
Now, in Western media, dragons are most often associated with destruction and fire. But that's not actually the case with Sisu and the other dragons in this film. And it's also not the case with the Naga. Like Sisu, the Naga is most often associated with water. So it's actually a little bit like a sort of sea serpent. And when I say sea serpent, the first thing that comes to mind, at least for me as a Scandinavian person, is something like Jörmungandr, or the Midgard serpent, as it's more commonly known here in Denmark. The Midgard serpent was a sea serpent that was so big that it could reach all around the world and bite down on its own tail. It was one of Loki's children, and it was said to be the creature that would bring about the death of Thor during the end of the world, known as Ragnarok. Of course, there's sea serpents featured in many other mythologies as well, such as, for instance, the Hydra from Greek mythology. But both the Midgard serpent and the Hydra are fierce beasts that bring about destruction. The Naga is a bit more nuanced. In both Hinduism and Buddhism, Nagas are often considered to be friendly and helpful. With that said, Nagas aren't just one thing. Just like we have many different interpretations of sea serpents and dragons in Europe, the Naga means something different depending on where in Asia you are. In Thailand, the Naga is a sort of god that lives in the underworld. And to Malaysian sailors, it's more of a dragon-like creature with many heads, sort of like the Hydra. But just to bring it back, the creatures we see in Raya and the Last Dragon are not as much inspired by dragons as they are inspired by the Naga. So while we've been led to believe that this was a film about dragons, it's actually a film about Nagas. Do you think it might be too late to change the title on the posters? No, I actually think there's a very good reason why Disney chose to use the word dragon instead of Naga. Most of Disney's audience has no idea what a Naga is, but they probably do have some idea of what a dragon is. So that's probably gonna sell more tickets, or get more people to buy it on Disney+. Anyways, like I said, Nagas aren't one thing. They mean something different to a lot of different people. So I don't think that the dragons that we're going to see in the movie are going to be resembling one specific version of the Naga. I think it's more likely going to be an amalgamation of many different versions of the Naga. Just like the world of Kumandra is an amalgamation of many different Southeast Asian countries. And that is really just what Kumandra is. It's a combination of different cultures and landscapes from a bunch of different Southeast Asian countries. Disney sent a so-called Southeast Asian Story Trust on a trip to Southeast Asia, where they visited Malaysia, Cambodia, Vietnam, Thailand, Laos, and Singapore. So I think we're going to see influences from all of these different countries in the film. But why wouldn't Disney just choose one of these countries to set the movie in? Or since Kumandra is made up of 5 different lands, why not just choose 5 real Southeast Asian countries? Isn't this sort of a cop-out, and don't we risk this just being a parody of the real Southeast Asian countries? Well, I of course can't speak for the Southeast Asian population, for obvious reasons. But I definitely think it's smart to not choose a real country to set this movie in. As far as we can gather from the trailers, it's pretty obvious that there's going to be some fighting between the different lands of Kumandra. And it kind of looks like the Fangland is being cast as the villains in the movie. If you want to know more about that, I'd recommend watching my previous video on Raya. But if you'd set the movie in the real world, you would have had to cast a real country of a region that you're trying to celebrate as the bad guys. And I definitely don't think Disney wants to do that. This is kind of like how Frozen isn't really set in Norway, but instead it's set in Arendelle, a land that just resembles Norway in a lot of ways. And the evil Prince Hans is from the Southern Isles and not from Denmark, which is basically a group of islands south of Norway. But mostly I think it's because Disney wants to be able to make their own rules. They want the freedom to make their own cultures and religions that fit with what they need for the story. They couldn't very well go out and say that everyone in Thailand, for instance, worships dragons if that's not really the case. So instead they've made their own world that might very well resemble Thailand or Malaysia, but it isn't really those countries. It's kind of like how most fantasy worlds that we know from Lord of the Rings or Warcraft or anything like that are heavily inspired by Europe in the Middle Ages. But I do think that Disney are trying to be very sensitive about how they handle the Southeast Asian cultures and people. I really think that the goal with this movie is to celebrate and be faithful to the spirit of this part of the world. But this actually leads me to a question that I'd love to pass on to you. If Raya and the Last Dragon takes place in Kumandra, and Kumandra isn't actually in Southeast Asia, but is just inspired by Southeast Asia, can Raya then actually be the first Southeast Asian Disney princess? I think she probably is, but let me know what you think in the comments down below. And also let me know if you're going to see Raya and the Last Dragon on Friday, because I certainly am. And while you're down there, why not leave a like on the video and maybe subscribe to the channel if you want to see more videos from me. But with that said, that's pretty much all I had for you today. Thank you so much for watching, and until next time, take care and so long.